Hello everybody, we're going to hit you up with another presidential election. This one, the election of 1804. Thomas Jefferson going to go for that second term. Can he get it done? Let's find that out right now. So, before we begin with the incoming party, the Democratic Republicans, I want to make this point of note. The 1804 presidential election is the first presidential election after the passage of the 12th Amendment, which states that each elector now has to cast only one ballot when they go and cast their vote, and that vote will go to both the presidential candidate and the vice presidential candidate. So no more voting for two people and whoever wins becomes president, whoever is the runner-up becomes vice president. So no more of that. So as I've said, the incoming party, the Democratic Republicans, winning the election of 1800. The incumbent president is Thomas Jefferson of Virginia. During the early portion of the 1800s, really up until the 1830s, presidents were nominated by congressional caucuses. Pretty much meaning that members of Congress from each party would get together and nominate the presidential candidate and the vice presidential candidate. So when the Democratic Republicans get together, they're easily going to renominate Jefferson. Jefferson is going to be nominated for a second term, but now the next question is who's going to be his running mate? Well, you would be thinking, Joanne, that's an easy question. It would be Aaron Burr, his current vice president, but no, that's not going to happen. There's a couple of reasons for that. Jefferson and Burr didn't exactly have a good relationship, and by 1804 it was souring. So Jefferson would have more than likely removed Burr from the ticket anyway, but another factor kind of sealed the deal for Aaron Burr, kind of put the last nail in his own coffin, so to speak, and that is killing Alexander Hamilton in a duel in 1804. Now, nobody exactly likes it when you kill a prominent politician in a duel, and you're a prominent politician yourself, being the Vice President of the United States, but it happened, and Burr is removed from the ticket as a result. So we get a new list of vice presidential candidates for the Democratic Republicans, and they are Senator John Breckinridge of Kentucky, Governor of New York George Clinton, Postmaster General Gideon Granger of Connecticut, John Langdon of New Hampshire, former governor and U.S. Senator, Attorney General Levi Lincoln of Massachusetts, and William Mackley of Pennsylvania, who is also a former U.S. Senator. At the end of the day, it is going to be Governor Clinton who receives the vice presidential nomination. So we have the Jefferson-Clinton ticket, so let's get to the Federalists. Now, for the Federalists losing in 1800 in the crazy 1800 election, so they're wanting to get back into the swing of things. So their caucus in Congress gets together, and they're going to nominate Charles Cotesworth Pinckney, who is a former minister to France from South Carolina. This is kind of a little bit weird because remember, the Federalists are a northern-based party, and you have this southerner in Democratic Republican territory running as a Federalist for president. But nevertheless, Pinckney is nominated, and Pinckney is going to bring along for the ride a guy named Rufus King, who is a former U.S. Senator from the state of New York. So a kind of a northern-southern ticket, so to speak, for the Federalists, and kind of a northern-southern ticket for Democratic Republicans as well. Now, Jefferson is going to have a pretty easygoing first term. Jefferson, although he won in a squeaker in 1800, he suddenly gains popularity during his second term. He's helped by a boom in American trade after hostilities between Britain and France and the Napoleonic Wars in Europe ceased and desisted for a little while. And also the Louisiana Purchase. The Louisiana Purchase was made in 1803 with the French. The Americans had originally gone to Napoleon, who was the leader of France at the time, with only the intent to buy New Orleans, the city of New Orleans, from the French. But when they met up with Napoleon, Napoleon says, hey, here, I know you only wanted New Orleans, but let's give you the whole daggone Louisiana territory. And that's what happens. Napoleon needed the funding for his campaigns in Europe, and also the funding to fight a revolution in the colony of Saint Domingue, which would eventually become the second independent state in the Western Hemisphere, Haiti, and the first Black Republic. So we buy the whole Louisiana territory for some $15 million, and this doubles the size of the United States. But the Federalists scream bloody murder at this. Jefferson, heading into his presidency, believed that the Constitution should be taken at face value, should be taken literally. He believed that if it wasn't in the Constitution, the president couldn't do it. So he actually thought the Louisiana Purchase was unconstitutional because it wasn't in the Constitution to grab up a quarter of the continent and planning to govern it by military governors, planning to set an expedition to explore the territory, but he does it anyway. And this is a big political 180 for Jefferson, and Jefferson is attacked by the Federalists, as I've said, for this. Also, Jefferson ended the military buildup that was instituted by Adams, and although the Federalists tried the best they could to attack these policies, these attacks proved fruitless. Jefferson is simply, and the Democratic Republicans are simply going to just overwhelm the Federalists. So let's get to those results right now. This is an electoral grumbling for the Federalists. Jefferson is easily going to win the second term. He receives 162 electoral votes to only 14 for Mr. Pinckney. Jefferson carries every single state but Delaware and Connecticut. Those states are going to be carried by Pinckney and the Federalists. Overall, Jefferson and the Democratic Republicans carry 15 states. In terms of the popular vote, it's going to be 72.8% for the incumbent Jefferson and 27.2% for Mr. Pinckney. So not only a drumbling electorally, but also a drumbling in the popular vote. So about 104,000 to 38,000 votes. The differential there between Jefferson and Pinckney. Jefferson's 45.6 percentage point margin victory in the popular vote remains the highest victory margin in a presidential election in which there were multiple major party candidates. And this election was so bad to the Federalists because Jefferson and the Democratic Republicans were winning in states that were normally Federalist strongholds. Also with this win, Jefferson became the first former vice president in American history to be elected and re-elected. The only other American to do this is Richard Nixon. He was Dwight Eisenhower's vice president in the 1950s, and he is going to win the presidency in 1968 and be re-elected to it in 1972. Those election videos coming up on July the 6th. But at the end of the day, it is going to be Jefferson winning re-election he is going to step down after 2 terms, much like Washington did in 1796, so nearly a decade earlier, a little over a decade earlier. And the election of 1808 will determine his replacement. So with that, I hope you enjoyed this election video. If you haven't seen any of my previous videos, go ahead and watch those if you want. And we will see you next time for the election of 1808.